All right, let's do it.
Prosecuting.
I visited with him yesterday.
All right, Bannock County Commissioners are back in session with our budget hearings, and today we have Sheriff Manu and friend with him.
Alex Hamilton, Chief Deputy.
Tony Manu, Bannock County Sheriff.
All right, the floor is yours, gentlemen.
All right, so where do you guys want to start?
Just start with your
It's you.
start with
Sheriff.
your book if
We'll
you wanna-
start with
yeah,
Sheriff.
And if you need to go into executive, just let us know and we can.
Okay. We'll start with Sheriff, but as far as overall budget, I thought, the instructions to our command staff was to try to limit B budget so we can accomplish A budget. So they were tasked with trying to minimize their B budget as much as possible. Of course, we're not gonna sacrifice safety. There's some things that we need, that were safety reasons, and we were gonna address those. So, I'm pretty proud of this budget. I think overall, and you might correct me if I'm wrong, Christie, I think it was an increase about 529,000
When you're
overall.
looking at sheriff, this year we're at 7,175,000. This one is, well. this
I guess for
one's
me, I'm talking overall budget.
5, yeah, between both departments.
Yes. So we limited it to about $529,000 in increases. So I was actually pretty proud of that as far as when you're talking overall budget with, and you'll see like in the jail, they really did a good job on their budget. Some of the main increases were the contractual increases like in IV medical and food services. Those are the contract increases that were, so those are probably the highlights of what the increases were. But I think overall their B budget decreased this year in the jail. So, and we'll get to that. As far as Sheriff B budget, now I'm just in light of going through every line item, I'm just going to highlight probably the higher dollar value ones, and I'll give you the line item numbers and just kind of give you an idea of where those differences fall. So Sheriff B budget, I guess the first one's 424 operating, and there's a $9,700 increase. And that comes from, and I don't know if you saw, we started a sheriff's app, and that $9,700 is the yearly fee to keep that going. And that sheriff's app is mainly for, it's jail purposes and community contact. So we're hoping this increases. It's kind of like I use the example of McKim and the boil order. They had called us trying to figure out how to get that out to their citizens because they didn't have a way to contact their citizens. So we're kind of working on ways to try to increase that because it didn't fall under the WIA, doing that major alert because it wasn't big enough of an emergency so we had to find an avenue, and we figured this would be, it's not the reason why we got it, but it kind of falls under that, being able to contact people without using, reverse 911 or, so it's an avenue. We're going to see how that goes. I'm kind of excited about it because it gives people access to jail population. You can look up jail rosters on that. So you can look up warrants. So if you got a warrant, maybe you don't want to know, but if you want to know if you have a warrant. So there's a lot of accesses for the community to have with our department. And then we've also included the emergency management. So Wes has a place in there where he can put all his input with any kind of emergency services that he has. So it's a pretty good deal. So
And
that's
really
go ahead.
quick on, if you look back behind the pages that you're on, within the book, this book.
Yes.
This book. If he's basically looking at the front page, which has the differences in line items. But as you look farther back in the pages, Teresa has outlined what they pay for within each line item. So if you're looking at 42400, there's a full list of everything that comes out of that line
it'll
item.
itemize it.
And she does that for sheriff, jail, and so on. So if If you don't want to write everything down, this does give you
Yeah.
that backup information that Tony's going to highlight.
And I'm just highlighting the bigger dollar values that are
Yeah.
kind of increases. The rest of them's pretty minimal, but like I said, if you have any questions on anything specific, it's in detail. So those tabs for sheriff, that'll go through all the line items under sheriff and then jail and so forth. So, the next one's 428, and that's a $1,500 increase. I know it's not big, but I figured that the explanation behind that's the Spillman cost increase for our CAD system. So it's one of those, it's something that happens every year. So, next one's 43202, repairs, maintenance, and computers, 2,000. That's usually the toners and all the things with printers and computers. The next one, 445, education. That's our training budget, and you'll see it's an increase of $19,250. Big thing of that is constantly hiring and training new people constantly. And usually if there's a question, like let's say you get a litigation against the sheriff's office, first thing that ICRIP pulls is training records. That's the first thing they go to. Okay, I need to get training records. So training's huge for us, and it's constantly changing, and we're constantly having to train. I feel like training is probably one of the most important things that we have to do, keep up with. I know Post now has a requirement that you have to have certain 40 hours of training and specific topics every 2 years. So that's a no-brainer. You have to train in certain topics to stay certified, and that's every certified deputy.
And I think, like we explained in the past to you guys too, in the last 4 years, we've really become self-sufficient in all our like basic training stuff that everyone has to have besides going to the academies. Like we have our own instructors now. We've come to that level because we've increased our budget, but now we don't have to send people to different places for those basic level trainings. We all have those all in-house, and we have our own people that instruct those. So.
Yeah, I think we're down one topic is what we're lacking in a training topic. So I think they're working on that right now as far as getting an instructor. So we've come a long ways as far as trying to maintain in-house training. And with that, there's a lot of surrounding agencies in our district that are utilizing, we can help them train their deputies, and kind of like I know Power County's used our trainers before. So, and that's one of those things when we talk about Tri-County sheriffs, they're always asking, does anybody have instructors? And we always have instructors. And if we're putting on the class, we let them bring it. We let their deputies come down and train with our people in our agency. So,
I had the commissioners from both Oneida and Franklin tell me yesterday that they sure appreciate all that Bannock County does for everybody else.
oh man, and there is a lot of that, but
We do.
it's reciprocated when we need something, so it doesn't go unnoticed. 49402 vehicles, 60,000. This is the leases. So, and this is the last of the 5-year lease, a kind of agreement that we said that we'd do a trial run. So I guess we'll see what that turnaround is after this year and see what the vehicle values are as far as the residual and buyout. I know this year we were going to do a residual, but the buyout, the $1 buyout it made sense to do the buyout because there wasn't a big difference in the price, and being able to maintain those cars, I mean, it just made sense doing it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Just the value of that. So this year, I know all the vehicles are in. The challenge was, I know the year before we had to get trucks because they couldn't get Tahoes. We did get Tahoes this year, and they were able to fill the orders. We just got the last one in. So I guess we'll be coming to you this shortly to figure out which cars are going to rotate out. But I don't think we're going to get a true sense of the value until next year because we still have some older cars. We're probably going to still maintain some of these cars that were leased because they're still better than some of the older cars that are in the fleet that were that we're using for like, I know we're switching out some of the ones that we should be trading out with our civil guys that are serving papers and marked cars, because their cars are older. And I don't think those were probably the last cars of the old ones that we did not lease. So I think the true value is going to come next year, unfortunately. So 615 uniforms, and that's the increase in that was bike patrol and canine and star team. It's bike patrol never had a difference in a uniform. They want to go to white shirts because the blue shirts are hot. So it's a matter of, it's stuff like that, little things like changing their shirts to white shirts in the summertime. Canine uniforms and star team uniforms. That's the difference.
Are you primarily using the bike teams in Lava?
Yes. Lava, Wellness Center. The Wellness Center deputy does it. He's on the bike most of the time.
I see him all the time.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
Yep, so. Crime prevention, 618, SRO, that's to get some updated crime prevention information for the schools. Some of our, I think we're still using the same stuff they used when I was SRO. It's some dated stuff. So it's trying to get new, drug prevention, alcohol prevention, new information to hand out to kids, and when we do community events. Let's see, 815 property acquisition, 21,000. So the big thing here is replacing our copy machine, our main copy machine. We bought that used in 2016, and it's really having issues. So it's replacing that. LPRs, and I'll let you touch on the LPRs, what that is.
So license plate readers, I actually printed off the same. I'm gonna hand one of these to each one of you guys. So license plate readers are kind of the new technology in law enforcement, which everybody's going to, and I'm guessing at some point we're probably going to be mandated to have them. What they are is they're cameras that are solar powered that are stationed in different parts of the community where they just monitor your license plates, and they'll, so if we have a certain crime in a certain area, we can like plug into the system. It was a red Ford Bronco, and it'll go through those license plate readers, and they'll pull up the red Ford Broncos and show us who it was, and we can get a license plate and know who that person is. Same thing with facts. Let's say we have a stolen child that comes through the area. Those same license plate readers would pick up the vehicle that's been reported from the suspect that has that stolen child. What's really unique is we're putting in for 2 of these license plate readers. The city currently has 36 of them in the city of Pocatello. If we get 2 of them, then we are able to use all the license plate readers that the city of Pocatello is already leasing. And so then we'll be locked into their system and get to use all those advantages which they're truly paying for. And we only have to lease 2 of those to get access to that system. Kind of our future with these 2 is we'd like to get a couple of these down in our other communities, and we're gonna in the future approach some of these smaller towns in the county to see if they can get those too, because it would be beneficial for all those little communities too. Say somebody commits a burglary, then we can pull that up, and if we have a suspect vehicle, we can put it in there and see which vehicle's gone by, and that's a really good tool, and it's really advantageous on
So where would you utilize
crime.
this in the county?
What's that?
Where would you utilize this in the county?
Like in our small towns, we'd put one like at the entrance on both sides of the town, and then it would have all the activity going in and out of town. Like in the county, to tie into it, I'm just speculating, but we could put one out on Highway 91 going north of town. We could put one going out south of town on Highway 91 too, and then those would be good advantages is to catch people. that
Put
are
one on Rapid
right.
Creek Road right now, you get everybody in income.
Well, and that's the focus, is hitting some of these main arteries out in the county. And not only do you get access to the cities, but I know Jerome County and Twin Falls have put the same type flock LPRs. You get access to theirs as well. So it's kind of like a big network. And then once you enter a license plate suspect, it'll start hitting. If that license plate goes through that town, it'll alert everyone like that plate just came through this intersection. And
So are
then-
they on like telephone poles or light poles or?
Yeah, so like it just depends on where you put them. You can put them on, it's like if you have like a street light, you could do it on that. But if you don't, then you'd have to buy like a specific pole that they designed for you, that you'd have to purchase the hardware for that to put it up. And then they have different costs, and they have like the basic readers, and then they have ones that are high-level readers like you'd put on the interstate or places where there's lots more traffic. But we're just looking to put in two of the basic ones, and is what we're budgeting for. So.
And join the network.
Yeah, join the network.
Yeah, that's the big benefit. right
Yes.
there.
We talked about this up at the event center at one time.
Yes.
Yes,
The
and that could
entrance
even,
into the event center.
that's even a place we could put one too, is up at the
Two
event-
entrances.
At the
Right.
entrance of the event center, and that would totally help the crime that's going on up there.
So how do you get, are you reading them on the front or the back? Because I noticed more and more cars now are not putting license plates on the front of the car.
It really depends on how you position them.
So you're catching them as they're going away from you, or
Yep.
Yeah.
will it do either way?
So, yeah, but you have to put two cameras up.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it has to be a double camera.
Yes.
So is it legal in Idaho not
It
to
is.
have the license plates on the front?
It will be in July. And I can explain to you after this meeting how that happened.
But I've already seen examples of the city showing me demonstrations on what they've done to solve crimes using these already, and it's just amazing. Like, they'll have a hit and run accident, and they're just able to catch them like within minutes.
If you go over to Europe, they got cameras everywhere.
Oh, man.
So,
It's the way of the future.
It is.
It's like you said, wellness center, perfect spot for them. And maybe that's something we just work gradually moving forward with this.
well, it was interesting, I was talking to the Night Owl janitor guy this morning and asking him how the contract was working. He said, it's going great, but we're not slowing down the vandalism at all, which
It's true.
makes me sad. So maybe we need to think
Up
about,
there, huh?
yeah,
Well,
putting some cameras up
Yeah,
there.
well, Christy and I were just saying, maybe we need to talk about in their budget, buying a couple specifically for the wellness complex to just leave them up there.
I think that's a very wise
Probably
discussion.
paid benefits.
Well, if you cut our vandalism
Vandalism
down,
down.
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, and that might be a little bit of an overestimate, just because I don't know exactly how much hardware we're gonna have to buy, so that would give us two, covering all the hardware, if we had to buy all the hardware.
And we are
And
working
that
in
price.
conjunction with Pocatello Police. They're
So,
kind of doing the bulk of
You have to have a power source, can you run off solar?
solar.
Solar.
Power's good. Like, I know Pocatello's purchasing two for the interstate. They're gonna put one at Malad Summit, and,
Went out towards Power County
yeah,
on the interstate, so.
and that's their effort.
Wi-Fi, I assume they gotta hit a Wi-Fi there, or whatever you're doing to come and talk to a base somewhere.
Must be satellite
Yeah, it's all
driven.
satellite.
It's all
driven.
satellite.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about
So they're not real portable, you couldn't put one in one place one night and move it. I mean, once you're
No,
setting it up,
they're-
you're setting it
They're
up.
meant to be stationary.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure they've got portable ones, you know.
Well,
but-
stationary makes sense though, because then you know exactly
Yep.
where that
Yep.
is when it registers.
Yeah, you've probably seen them if you go to the big events, you'll see them in some of the parking lots, they have those portable ones, that's what they are. It's the same thing, they're watching people to see who commits crimes in the parking lots and stuff, so.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
And then the last part of that is the Zydex platform for dispatch. Basically it's the desk that they sit on, but the whole system's adjustable. So we've got three of them, and one of them's not working. So that 11,000 is to replace that.
The desk moves up and down, not the chair.
Yes, it's the
The whole
mounted
station.
Yeah,
station. And it's not like your desk that you have in your office. It's a whole different type of shelf.
Yeah.
that holds everything. 840 critical equipment, and probably the biggest difference is we have 19 vests that are due to be replaced, ballistic vests. And with that, they're going to go to the new rifle-rated vests that'll stop a rifle round. That's probably the biggest change in the vest. Right now, they're level 3, and they're going to go up to level 5. I think it's a 5. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But rifle round vest, and that's 19 new ones. The cost of $66,000. That's probably the biggest change in that critical equipment. E-bikes, tough books, ammo, and a new drone. So that's probably those are the difference in that line item. Those.
Is there any residual value in the old vest?
No, because they expire every 5 years. So technically,
Just like
If
fall
we-
protection.
yeah, if we
Once
put
it's
someone in
done, it's
there
done.
and a critical incident happens and they have that expired vest, then we're on the hook for that. So, I mean, I'm sure there's places that'll do it. I know I used to keep mine and just,
I just wonder if there's other places that would love the hand-me-downs, you know?
Liability's still there.
yeah.
So I just.
Once they're out of warranty, they're out of
Yeah.
warranty.
And the lifespan's usually 5 years for those. So,
66,000.
We used to have BB gun wars.
yeah,
Kids will have BB gun wars with them, you know?
So how do they wear out? I mean, is it just the general wear and tear on your body every day,
Yes.
moving the stuff around?
Well, they're made out of a product called Kevlar, and I think the
Right.
durability of that Kevlar over time starts to
It just
diminish.
degrades.
Yeah, so that's why you have to get new ones and get ones that are certified. Same with our, like SWAT team, we use ballistic shields. Same thing too, over a certain period of time, we have to rotate those out because they lose their certification too. And then if we're in a, like the sheriff said, we're in a critical incident, one of our guys gets hurt because a bolt goes through one of those, and we're in big trouble then, so.
On those vests, if you take a round, is then the vest expired and you have to get a new vest?
Yeah, correct.
yeah.
Kind of like a bicycle helmet
Yeah,
if you
just
crash
like,
it.
yeah, we had an incident in lab a few years ago where one of our ballistic shields got shot, and, we had to replace that shield. We couldn't use it.
Will it stop a rubber bullet? Since that's the new,
I'd hope
that's in the
so.
news, yeah. That's in the news right now down in Los Angeles is the rubber bullets and all of that, so. Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's,
Okay,
so those are kind of the highlights on the B budget for, and really that, and if you can see, if you look on your budget request sheet on your booklet, it'll show the difference from this year to last year on the bottom, under that difference column, and that's kind of your difference from last year to this year. And like I said, that was kind of the highlight. I highlighted probably where the bulk of that comes from. And I think a lot of it's those vests. So,
okay, jail.
JLB budget. So if you look on that third column, on the difference column, you look on the bottom, it's in red. So they were able to decrease it by $79,000. So I kind of applauded our captain and his staff, and man, I don't know how you did that, but it seems like we went over this with them extensively and they were good with it. So some of their highlights as far as increases, not really a lot of, like I said, probably the two biggest ones are 540 and 641, the prisoner food in the hospital, Ivy Medical, and that was just a contractual 5% increase. So, and really we've been, as far as those two services, they've been really good. I mean, very minor problems as far as the food. I mean, when there is problems, we address it pretty quick, and they take care of it. I think their biggest thing as far as food is probably their staffing. They've gone through a lot of staff, but as far as the service, it's been decent, so.
The medical, I mean, we haven't heard a lot about it for quite a while on that. It seemed like for a while we was, and
Yes,
the service wasn't that good, and now it's, must have improved.
you know, and they've got our main nurse, Val, she's been outstanding. So, but unfortunately, she's leaving to move up north. But we're getting a new one, we're kind of sharing with Twin Falls County right now. She'll be coming in periodically and helping, but they're trying to find a new replacement. And Ivy itself hired a new medical director overall that is kind of do a lot of the overseeing for all the programs. Amir is his name, from San Diego. We've met him several times, and he's very knowledgeable. He does the prisons in California, so he does all the medical care for big prisons in California. So very knowledgeable with, and his biggest focus when we met with him is decreasing costs. So I like what he says, and we'll see if he stays true to that. But he's been really good so far.
One of the big things that really helped with our medical stuff is that the sheriff started implementing staff meetings with the medical providers where we get updates once a week with what's going
Yeah.
on with the inmates and who's having medical issues, and that's been a huge change, and kudos to the sheriff for starting to implement that, and it's been really a benefit to the facility and so we know what's going on every week with
Yeah.
the problem inmates and who's having major medical issues, and it's been really beneficial.
And I think probably, and I don't know, at some point we probably need to have that discussion with, our biggest challenge right now is mental health. It's killing us. And it's one of those things that, you know, you can get people, you can get them established, and basically a DE comes in and says they're committable, but there's nowhere to take them. So we're stuck with them in our facility, and there's really, our facility's not built that way. And it's a challenge. They take up a lot of resources, and they're really not getting the help. The reason why they're in there is for a minimal criminal charge, but the real problems are mental health. I mean, it's a challenge, but it sucks up a lot of resources, and they take a lot of supervision. So, you know, not their fault to some degree, but it's just a challenge.
I walked out of my office down there, and walked out in the hallway, and there's a guy out there with orange Crocs and sweats, and there's no security around him. What the heck, who's this? And somebody been released, it looked like, and still had a pair of orange Crocs on.
But it's a nationwide issue with all the jails.
Well, he was out there filling out some stuff at bonds and fines. Where's security at?
The next area is 420 office supplies. Like I said, 3,800, and that's basically, the bulk of that's office chairs in the jail. So 433, repairs and maintenance. So what that is in the jail, when they do their counts, they use you've seen it during your inspections. So they need to replace the Guard ones. There's 2 Guard 1 Android devices that need to be replaced, that they use to do inmate counts. So, and that's to the tune of $13,550. So that's the bulk of that change on that maintenance. 461 building maintenance, and that's just the overall building maintenance. The difference in that is 119,000, and that's just projects. Of that total, 159,000 is the normal day-to-day maintenance that we do every year just to keep the lights on. So of that total, what is it? 278? 159 of that's just the annual maintenance that we do every year. So the 119's the increase for different little projects that we want to get done.
And if you look at page 8, under the jail section, it outlines
It outlines what
all
those
of the
projects are.
items.
So, by definition, is, what defines your sheriff's versus jail? Is it on the inside of the, what do you call them, where you walk in the lock and they,
Yep.
so anything on one side of the wall you're assigning to the jail. So is some of this maintenance sometimes crossover, or is that just allocation?
It crosses over.
Is your power bill basically separated out by
No.
two different meters, or
No.
it's just your allocation? of it?
Yes,
It's all the same.
Okay.
yeah, it's all the same.
Okay.
The jail budget covers the utilities,
Yes.
the building stuff.
Okay,
so
so
the
and it's just
sheriff
something
doesn't-
for consistency, you're doing it the same way every year, that's the.
Correct.
For comparability, and that, I'm just curious, how you go, nope, that kilowatt goes over
Yeah,
here, this
no,
kilowatt
that
goes
would be
that
a
way.
pain,
Okay,
but yeah,
but it's consistent every year, so it's.
It is. It's the same
It's
every
easy to
year.
compare with.
Yep.
Okay,
and we just put it all in that budget, if that makes sense.
yeah. That, your logic is as good as anyone else's.
And that's it as far as the highlights,
Okay.
and that's the big difference. Like
I
said,
noticed you didn't have any capital equipment expenditure planned this year,
No,
so, okay.
nothing they requested.
Did you see from ARPA last year?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I just figured it's a good catch up, get your air, get a good breath and
And we
go from
did,
there. so.
I mean, it was, that was the whole point of the ARPA, was to try to get to this point where you,
Okay.
And depending on the delivery date for the generator, we might need to roll some money forward.
right.
But-
Just no,
That would just be rolled forward
Right.
because it can't get spent this year,
So,
so.
so what I always worried about is deferred maintenance, when guys say, no, we're not gonna have any repairs, and just because we go on to budget, look better, but if you defer something, it ends up coming back with a sledgehammer on the back end, so.
no, that,
There's nothing that you feel like you're just pushing off
no.
that needs to be fixed
I
this
mean,
year.
you've got a new roof, I mean, there's, a lot of the major things have been taken care of through
They've been
ARPA.
pretty generous in the last few
Yeah.
years.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, we've tried to
That's
take
good.
care of
So-
things.
And I think it's gonna be that way for a little while, you know?
Ought to be,
It should,
yeah.
Yeah, I might add that, and you guys have been out there and seen our facility, it's top-rated facility. I mean, people come in there that do like maintenance in the other jails or come to service stuff, they're just amazed at how nice our jail is.
even the new intercom guys are like,
Yeah.
man, your infrastructure is like better than some of these brand new jails we're putting in. So, there's a lot of pride.
It's good when we go out and walk through it,
Mhm.
and I really enjoy that, and again, it demonstrates how your staff is doing, so, well
And They,
done.
they do, they take ownership of it, that's good,
That's key.
so,
Well, I think to a certain extent, the inmates treat it better when it's not. If they think they're in a pigsty, they contribute. They contribute to the tearing things
You're right.
apart and whatever, so.
I mean, it doesn't stop,
No,
I'd like to think they don't, they're still good.
but some of them will.
They can't even lean on a counter, what do you mean?
Oh, yeah. Get off the counter. So anyway, yeah, it looks great out there. I appreciate what you guys are doing out there.
And really, that's it. That's the main highlights of those, of where it is. But like I said, the biggest one is that difference. When you see that red number, that's a good thing to see. So,
Do you want to do the courts,
courts,
security?
really, there's really nothing. And you look at that one, it's probably a little shell game with that, because I think a lot of that big number from last year was the security number. So. Not having that in here is good, but also really the only increase there was the critical equipment, and that's getting these rifles in the building. They've got the safe, it's just a matter of getting rifles, but we told them we're not gonna let that happen until they get qualified, every single one of them, and their instructor gets qualified as well, so. But that's the only big difference, is getting 3 rifles. And that's on 840. Other than that, that's it on that.
So do you
course.
see any critical need that's coming down the pike, either here or out in your officers or whatever? Where's the next critical need that could happen? For, we've addressed vehicles with your leases, we've addressed maintenance. Is there any, and from what I understand, you're pretty well fully staffed now. He said that you.
We've got one going to the state police.
Okay.
We got a retirement coming up August 1st.
You got a court martial retirement.
Yeah, that's.
Is that the one?
That's the one,
Okay.
August 1st.
Personnel will always be, I think.
It's always gonna be an issue. I mean,
That's what I
A
was,
lot of our staff in the jail always, they look for those openings in patrol side.
Yeah.
And if there's not one in our facility, there's gonna be Pocatello Police, Chubbuck Police. And I mean, I don't blame them. I mean, it's a different environment and it's usually more pay, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing better. I think we've got currently two or three openings, part-timer and 2 full-time. So,
but you
It's better than it's been.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yep.
keep it that way.
Well, we had worked pretty hard on salary adjustments over the last couple of years.
Yes.
Yeah.
That made a big difference.
Chunking away. I mean, obviously you can never do it all at once, but that's helped a ton.
So, do you have any shortage of beds or are we having to rent any space or haul anybody all over the place like we used to?
Nope.
Well,
Our
that
population,
saves a lot of money.
it does. It does. That's probably been a really good, lately, is our population's been down as far as inmate population, which helps with getting people trained. Because when it's overpopulated, it's hard to get people trained because you got so much going on. So right now, the situation's perfect for where we are. I say we're full staff, but we still have probably half of our jail that still need to go to post. So we're full staff, but they're not certified just yet, which is it's good that we have a lower population than normal. Right now, I think we're like 184.
How are you doing for federal or state prisoners?
Right now, federal, we got 13, and state prisoners, 11. So they're there if there's room.
Right.
So do we have we got a contract with the marshals?
Yep.
What, do they guarantee so many?
We don't guarantee so many, we'll just,
But do that when they pay, are they paying for?
oh yeah,
The 20?
per day.
Yeah. I mean, do they it seemed like at one time they said we want to pay for 20 spots in case we need them, even though
No, we don't have any kind of
Okay.
agreement like that, which is good, because when we have problem inmates from the federal, because usually they give you the worst of the worst, we can just call them and says, hey, you need to get this guy out of here, and they come and take them, and they put them somewhere else. So it's good leverage to have when they send the really bad people to our facility and they cause a lot of problems, so. But yeah. But no, we do have room for that. And our jail admin are aware that, yeah, if we can hold them, we will. So, because it's revenue.
Good place. A lot better than it used to be.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, I don't know how
And we
many,
just talked about that today in our morning meetings.
used to have 3 or 4 officers, that's all they did was transport.
Yep.
And rent Rexburg or Twin, it seemed like we were running them all over the place.
Well, I think that helps with your staffing and your personnel too. You keep those numbers down, it makes it easier and better for the employees that are working for us too, to manage all that. And that's another reason why our staffing's better, not to mention what we've done with the aid budget for the last couple of years.
But to your question, probably the critical thing is going to be the mental health. And I see more facilities starting to adjust their accommodations to accommodate that population is kind of what's happening.
What does that look like?
I know Bonneville they have an area now. It's not open yet because they can't staff it, but they just built an addition for that.
How many beds in there?
Gosh, I don't know how many they have specifically for that, but I know maybe 20-something. I may be wrong, but
And that's something that maybe we need to talk regionally. I mean, just like, there's no way Power County can do anything else. I mean, they have like 8 beds, they can't do anything. And the other counties, smaller counties, I mean, so a regional, anything that we could advance that way, I think would be something to look at.
But that's probably, as I look and go around and listen to all the other sheriffs nationwide, I just got back from Quantico I spent all week in Quantico last week with 20 sheriffs from around the country. Houston, their sheriff, he has a staff of 5,500, a jail that holds, thousands. And then King County in Seattle, their sheriff was there talking about all these things. We all have the same challenges. Mental health is the number one, and listening to some of them talking about how they're accommodating that population now, like, oh man, I don't want to go there, but
Well, basically, we just trespassed 2 individuals a week ago from here, and that's the situation in mental health, basically.
How big of a security, or what level of security does a facility like that need to have? It's obviously not maximum security, but it's not like in and out.
well, and I think the other side of it is a lot of them are staffing caseworkers. So they have their in-house mental health caseworker. That's probably the biggest change is a lot of them are adding that personnel that deal with that and not depend on a deputy,
Who doesn't have training in that.
or depending on a state employee to come in and manage that population when they've got their own thing going on in different areas. So,
Do you know, a generation or 2 ago, they had State Hospital South, which
Yep.
is what it was designed regionally to take care of those. It would be interesting to see if the state has any forward thinking as, okay, it would be nice to put a regional center that would benefit all of eastern Idaho, that would have the staffing and the training and everything else, because I think, I agree with you, I think it's coming.
It's
It's here. It's just at what level, is it crisis level yet? But
Right.
I'd like to see us at least engage in some conversation regionally with the state to see where they're at. 'Cause, I don't know, just,
right.
with your influence with the sheriffs, just keep us a heads up on
Well,
what's going on there. Because I don't think it's gonna go backwards.
and I know the state has a new director for their correction facilities, and she's actually pretty proactive, working with the sheriffs and their population and talking about these issues. So I know we'll be meeting with her here shortly as far as the sheriffs, and she's been really good so far. So,
Okay.
Keep us out of trouble.
Yep, please. Pretty please with sugar on
Keep us
top.
out of the news.
All right, anything else?
no, do you want to touch on a budget or?
Do you guys want an overview of what
Yeah.
you've done with A?
Yes.
Okay.
So a budget, I guess if we start with sheriffs, I guess the goal, I know talking with Christie and you guys, but the goal was basically trying to get the second half of what we proposed last year. And that's what we aimed, and that's what we proposed. And as far as overall increases, let's see. So sheriff A budget, the ask was an increase of $205,000.
That does include changes to like 207K.
Correct.
Overtime. The sheriff's overtime is 110,000. So to put that into context with what some of the other departments request, and then their 207K to get the 80 to 86 hours is 105,000. The on-call money's in here, and that stayed the same. They did add $5,000 for an FTO incentive. When I
So-
first started
yeah.
with the county, we had incentive money that when, and you guys can explain what the program is.
Okay.
We had that money, and then over the years, it got a little difficult to implement, and there were some dynamics with an administrative person at the time. The request is to bring this back. It's pretty minimal,
Pretty minimal.
$5,000 cost, but the FTO program, if you'll explain what it is.
So the FTO incentive, basically each division, certified positions, have certain topics of training that they have to have on top of going to post. So sometimes they complete it before they go to post, sometimes they don't. And then they complete it when they get back. So FTO is basically a field training officer, and they go through, like in our patrol division, it's 6 phases, and basically it lasts about 12 weeks, 12 to 14 weeks, depending on the student. And it's basically a liability. Having that field training helps us with our liabilities as far as covering them and knowing that they sign off on every topic that they train on. The trainer itself is a certified FTO, so each trainer has to go to certification. So they actually, it's not just like we let anybody train them. They have to go to an FTO through, what's the training called? The guy that teaches it? I can't remember the name. But anyways, it's not like anybody can do it. You have to get certified to be an FTO trainer. So patrol has a 6-phase FTO, dispatch has a 6-phase FTO, and then there's a coordinator that coordinates all of this. And that's a big task, because each one of those phases comes with a kind of a booklet like this, and it's pretty intense. And then each day that they are done with their training phase, that for that particular day they've got to sign off, and then that trainee has to check the boxes as far as, yes, I understand these topics, I understand these topics, and then every day that FTO has to do a narrative on the strengths, weaknesses, and where they need to improve. And then whether they are sufficient, they either go to remedial, or at the end of this phase, they may have to repeat the phase. I mean, it's pretty intense. I mean, I know people, when I went through the FTO, I had some hard FTOs. I mean, they were all sergeants at the time. But it's really a quality control to figure out whether this person is going to make it in that position or not. Because there have been people we've said, well, you didn't pass FTO, so you either got to go back to the jail if there's an opening, or you're just done with us. So really important part of getting people trained. So dispatch has that same thing, six phases. Like I said, the coordinator, he's the one that coordinates all this and makes sure all the manuals are up to date. So if new case law comes out, he has to change all the training laws that are taught in that FTO manual. And then he does the overall, whether they pass or not, and then make sure all the FTOs are certified. And he's actually in charge of the whole curriculum. So the ask is that they get compensated for what they do. So like and how we're breaking it down as far as paying them, it'd be an FTO would get paid $100 per phase. Is just an additional $100 for the phase. So if you have 6 phases, it's going to be a $600, $100 each FTO. And usually there's a different FTO for each phase, because you want them to have different experiences with different FTO guys, because our biggest thing is you take the good and bad from what you see from the FTO, and you kind of create your own toolbox and make your style of how you're going to be as a dispatcher, patrolman, whatever. And then so it's like Christy said, the ask is $5,000 per year. The actual is about $3,000, but $5,000 is the ask, because you just don't know how many openings you're going to have.
And it's all going to be determined on turnover. So the
Yeah.
ask in the jail is $25,000. That obviously is more because there's more turnover in the jail. But these guys the trainers are doing extra work, and every office has trainers, but this is a little bit higher level. They've got to be certified. It's just an incentive to help do all the paperwork and babysit. an
On top of
officer,
doing their job too.
basically. Yeah.
Because the FTO still has their responsibilities, so and in the jail, they've been taxed. I feel bad for them, because as of late, all the openings, they're just constantly training, and I get it, because it can be a pain, because it's just.
Well, it's a huge officer safety issue too. We're making sure these guys are getting trained to the abilities that we want to be. It's not like the olden days. When we started our career, we worked with guys, they were like here's your gun and your badge, go to work, you know? It's not like that anymore. The liability and everything's so high that, you know, we have to have this training program, and we have to have quality people participating in that are, know what they're doing, training our people, so we have those quality officers that are hitting the street when they get through their training program. It's pretty important.
You really hit the liability issue, because if you've got an officer, one, it's got to be defensible. If a prosecutor's going to prosecute a case, you got to make sure they did everything correctly in either side of the facility. And so it kind of plays into that as well, plus.
And everything's
citizen
documented.
safety.
Everything the FTO does, everything the new employee does, and then the coordinator, everything has to be documented. And it's labor intensive, it's kind of a pain, but it's a necessary evil. So that's the ask. Like I said, it's minimal, but I think it keeps our people motivated, because it just seems like it's long overdue, and that's the ask, so.
So one of my questions about wages is, we now take care of all the small communities. We have contracts with them.
Correct.
Are we covering, is the county compensating, or are they paying their fair share? The same with Little League football, with the horse races, the concerts. Are we covering our expenses
Yes,
in those situations?
So every time we get our new A budget, there's those contracts that we submit for to cover those special things like Little League, we always increase that dollar amount, because it's based on overtime rate, and we include the benefits and stuff, so yes.
Now, I'm going back to a few years back. We wasn't doing that with the cities.
Correct.
We're in that fifth year of
But
that
I also,
step, aren't we?
it's time to start looking at it again,
Yeah.
because we're past that step.
I thought this was year 5 of that.
We only had 3.
Yeah, it's only
It was
Oh,
3.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
yep.
past the 3 years.
We're past the 3.
Okay.
So it's time to relook at that. But I will tell you, there's, like, Lava's been really good as far as adding, they've always added more money for more hours. And and they're always asking for more hours, but
Yeah.
it comes back to, well, it's contractual, and this is the rate, but it's according to what the new A budget says. So as far as those extra things, we've been adjusting.
Okay, I would just like to say,
Yep.
So,
think about all
I know-
those things.
I know at one time it seemed like they only come every 5 years to renegotiate that. Well,
It
that's.
wasn't even that.
No, it was
Yeah.
like
It was
20
like
years.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
The cities, it had been 20
So,
years.
we almost need to do it, because they're going into their budget cycle as well, too. It almost ought to be an annual
Correct.
thing that they should expect, at least a cost of living.
Well, the last one we did,
It was a
we
three-step
adjusted
phase.
it over 3 years to catch them
Okay.
from a 20-year price
Yeah.
to a current price.
Okay, so,
So we're within ballpark, but we're a
Yes.
couple years away from where we
Yes,
probably should.
I think next budget year, preparing for 27,
Yeah.
that needs to be introduced.
And then I'm gonna pick on you,
Okay.
because you're right at the top here. There's a substantial increase in your wages. What's the deal? I mean, justification, because we're gonna do the same thing in other areas, not just.
So it was a matter of that compression on that mid-level to try to get it from sergeants, corporal sergeants, when you look at that, they get overtime. And then the next level, you've got lieutenants and captains. Lieutenants, so just to try to establish that, we moved lieutenants into salary. So they used to get overtime, they still do to this point, but if we get the ask in this A budget, lieutenants will be salaried, so they won't get overtime, which helps in the overall scheme of things. And then, but in order to do that, we had to raise that level, and then the captain's level, which then reflected to myself and the chief were creating that separation. And then you still have that mid-level compression, that there's still some room, hopefully in the future, to still move that if we have to. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's all I want, because we're gonna
Yep.
talk, as I'm here, we're talking to everybody about their ask and their wages and salaries, and so
Yep,
I'm just asking the same thing of every department.
100%. And that, you know how it is, everybody hates to ask for a raise for their own, but as far as systematically, when you raise lower and mid, you have to raise that upper level to minimize that compression.
Liabilities and responsibilities are a whole lot
As
different.
a-
Different areas, different departments, different people.
100%. So,
Before I forget, last week I texted you about your usage of drones.
Correct.
It was suggested during the iCrimp presentation that we have a policy on drone usage.
Well, let me tell you what I did after you texted me. I was like, I don't know what Jeff's searching for here, but I did reach out to the city. I did get a copy of their
Okay.
policy and procedure, and I turned it over, and currently, our guys are writing our policy and procedure for the county.
yeah.
Perfect, thank you. That was just the.
No,
the
but
advice
yeah,
from
but you
iCrimp.
kind of
I
ignited
think
that.
we need to
so.
include weed and mosquito
Oh,
in this policy
They've
also.
got a drone.
Somehow,
Yeah.
they have a drone, so
I'll mention that to them and see what they can figure out.
whatever we're doing, they need to be part of that policy. We don't need three
Yeah,
separate
you're right.
policies.
Yeah, really, the reason we never had a policy is because we just followed the FAA rules, and
Yeah.
their
Right.
guidelines is what we've always done. And their
Which iCrimp
licenses.
said, thank you, but it's not
Yeah.
quite enough to cover some of the liability, so.
Cool. No, we're working on it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Whatever you do, keep us out of the media and out of the jail.
Yeah, well, we feel the same.
I mean,
that's the message every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Oh, yeah. And, well, I've got to think, I've dealt with the sheriff's department for years in a small mayor's job, and whatever. We've always had great relationships with the officers in their areas, and hopefully that gets passed on down to all the people you get to work with. It's a thankless job, but I'm grateful that we have that many people that want to be in law enforcement, so.
You're right.
And we do have to keep them, we got to keep the carrot out there far enough that that is still a good career for those people who have that desire to be there. They take special people to do that. So anyway, thank you for,
Yep.
Well, we thank
For
you
your
too,
efforts.
also too. It's been amazing with what we've done with these ARPA funds to
Oh my gosh.
our facilities are just amazing now, and the stuff that we're still in the process of doing, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate working with our A budget too, because that's really had a big effect on us retaining our people that we're hiring. I mean, you can see, you've seen what's happened in the last 3 years with making those budget adjustments. So.
Okay, anything else for anybody? Again, thank you guys for all you do.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
good seeing you, by golly.
You too.
All right, we'll be